And it will come about in that day that I will make Jerusalem into a burdensome stone for all the nations, and all who lift it will be severely injured, and all the nations of the earth will be gathered against it. Zechariah 12:3. Today we stand at a crossroads of historic proportions. We are all in a life and death struggle between good and evil. Since the Islamic Revolution brought the jihadis to power in Iran in 1979, they have been the largest state sponsor of terror the world has ever seen. Years ago, at an interfaith dialogue conference in Kiev, the Ukraine, I met a young Iranian Jewish woman who explained to me how she, as an idealist leftist from the university, was a part of a whole movement of the left that had joined with the Islamists to overthrow the Shah. She did not realize that after the Islamists came to power, all of the leftist idealists would be thrown out, and the first ones to be arrested would be these naive university elites. As I have watched similar movements like Queers for Palestine contribute to the anti-Israel propaganda in America, I can't help but think that if history teaches us anything, it teaches us that humans learn nothing from history. I know that the rhetoric and the propaganda is causing the whole world to hate Israel, including the American left as well as the horseshoe right. But let's look at this realistically. The only people besides Jews who have consistently supported Israel abroad are evangelical Christians. In many cases, our biggest opposition abroad have come from American Jews who have been critical of Israel. But I also know that the atmosphere in America is changing, that even many evangelical Christians are turning away from us. This is the era of disinformation, so I would like to provide some facts that may change your mind. If you like this, please forward this to others. I'm loosely basing this on Ben Shapiro, episode 2389 of the Daily Wire. And of course, I can't blame him for any stuff that I've inserted in here. But the statistics have primarily come from him. Military sharing is the basis of military aid to Israel. Military aid to Israel really began because the U.S. aircraft industry was concerned that the Israeli fighter jet, the Lavi, would be in direct competition with the F-16. We started developing the Lavi in 1980, and it was flight tested in 1986 and being ready for production when it was canceled in 1987. After pressure from the U.S., because they did not want Israel to compete with their own defensive establishment, like Boeing, Lockheed Martin, etc. Now, $3.8 billion a year is the regular annual budget Israel gets from the U.S., which not only goes back into spending into the U.S. defense establishment, but also includes Israel sharing our technology with the U.S., including our Iron Beam system that uses laser beams to shoot down missiles, our modifications to the U.S.-made F-35, and a special helmet we designed for that F-35, and many other classified technologies. We share with the U.S. the intelligence our incredible Mossad agents gather. And most importantly, we are an ally that actually joins in the U.S.'s fights. Our IAF has been flying far more sorties over Iran than the U.S., and every day we absorb scores of missiles from Iran. We are fighting the jihadis over here so that the rest of the world won't have to face a nuclear Iran. We share the intelligence that led to things like the assassination of the top echelon of Iran's military. In many cases, carried these missions out ourselves. We require 0 U.S. bases and 0 U.S. troops to protect us. It was really heartwarming when Israelis listened to one of the conversations between an Israeli pilot and a U.S. pilot recently while they were flying on a joint mission. And from his cockpit, the Israeli shared with the American what an honor it was flying alongside the Americans. And the American said that he too was honored to be fighting with us. Now, let's contrast that with the annual aid that goes into America's other allies. Japan gets $5 to $6 billion a year on military bases in Japan, with 54,000 U.S. troops there. Germany gets $4 to $5 billion a year, with 36,000 U.S. troops. South Korea gets $3.5 to $4 billion a year, with 23,000 U.S. troops. Qatar gets $1 to $1.5 billion a year, with 8,000 U.S. troops. Turkey gets $300 to $500 million a year, with 1,700 U.S. troops. Saudi Arabia gets $500 million to $1 billion with 2,500 U.S. troops. None of those costs include surges or special ops. Now, question for you. How many of those countries that the U.S. spends billions of dollars a year on have provided direct forward support for the U.S.'s operations? 0. In fact, some of them deliberately tried to undermine the U.S. in the Iran war, including Turkey and at the beginning, Qatar. These countries live off the U.S.'s protection and have for decades. Not financial support or military aid for an independent force buildup, but the U.S.'s direct protection. For example, the tripwire support for South Korea, so that if any conflict with North Korea starts, the U.S. will be immediately drawn into the conflict to protect South Korea. The U.S. stations U.S. troops in Japan to protect against a threat from China. The troops in Germany are a holdover from the Cold War, where the U.S. is protecting Europe from an invasion by the Soviet Union. The U.S. has been doing this for over half a century, but when the U.S. requests their help, they refuse and continue spending their money to build up their welfare states. Ben Shapiro asks, are they really allies or just strategic partners? Now, the blessing in the Torah that says that God will bless those who bless Israel and curse those who spurn us is not a manipulative tool. It's telling you that we are a means of bringing God's light to the nations. Of course, every nation, including America, should put their own needs ahead of every other nation, including Israel. But if you will look, the need for Israel to survive against a sea of jihadis all around us is also in America's best interest, because global jihad also threatens America. We are doing the world's dirty business for them, whether they appreciate it or not. Now, if you tell me that the U.S. could better spend that $3.8 billion a year that the U.S. gives to Israel, I and our Prime Minister, Bibi Netanyahu, agree with you. We are already weaning ourselves off of U.S. aid. We are building our own ammunition factories because we remember what happened when Biden delayed sending us the military aid package that the U.S. Congress had approved. We had many soldiers severely wounded or killed in Gaza because of this. My neighbor lost his leg in a tank battle because we could not supply our troops with spare parts and ammunition. Many of us believe we need to bring back the Lviv fighter jet. We know that the political winds in America are changing, and who knows who will fill the Oval Office after Trump's term runs out. American Jews tell us that Israel is toxic right now to any politician wanting to get elected. One of the volunteers who was here just a few weeks ago said that when she shared on her social media post that she was coming to volunteer in Israel, she got a lot of negative comments. The tiny Jewish state is a pariah state the world over. Having said that, it's my students and volunteers that keep me from being bitter towards the Christians, because I know many that are still pro-Israel because they read their Old Testaments. And I want to say, may God bless you all. And if you like these videos, then I would like to ask you to please like and subscribe and comment, forward to your friends, whatever. All of this really helps our algorithm and helps me get this stuff out to the maximum number of people. Thank you, and may Hashem richly bless you.